Hello everyone. Artificial Intelligence and Machine Learning, Unit 5 Neural Networks. In this video, we are going to discuss about perceptron and multi-layer perceptron. Before we get into perceptron and multi-layer perceptron, let us first see what is an artificial neuron. It is the most fundamental unit of any deep neural network. From where this artificial neuron came from? The inspiration actually comes from our human brain, the biology. Biological neurons, neural cells, and the neurons are the neural processing units. This is the schematic of a artificial neuron. Biological neuron. The biological neuron consists of what? This is the picture of a biological neuron. Dendrites, synapse, soma, and axon. Dendrite receives signals from other neurons. This is the dendrite. It receives through dendrite receives signals from other neurons, and through synapse, the point of connection. This is the point of connection between two neurons. Point of connection. Soma processes information. This is the one central one. It's a soma processes information. Axon transmit the output of this neuron. Through axon, information is transmitted. First, we will see an artificial neuron, MP neuron, Michaelis-Spitz neuron. This is the MP neuron. What is G? G aggregates the inputs x1, x2, xn. We have n inputs and they are all Boolean. It can be either 0 or 1. Only it can have two states. Only 0 or 1. Boolean. This inputs G. What does this G do? G aggregates these inputs. What is aggregation? Aggregation is mere summation of the inputs. The inputs can be excitatory or inhibitory. Excitatory input is the one which excites. What is inhibitory? Inhibitory means, for example, if I want to go for a movie, irrespective of the genre, irrespective of the actor or irrespective of the producer or whatever it is, director, if I fall ill, what will happen? I am not able to go to that movie. So if I falling ill is inhibitory. Falling ill is inhibitory. It inhibits everything. So if that happens, means whatever be the case, whatever be the whoever is the director, whoever is the actor, whoever it is, I will not be able to go to the movie. So if that inhibitory input is high, the output will always be low. That is deactivated. So that's called as inhibitory. So y will be 0 if any xi is inhibitory. So what does this G do? It aggregates a summation of all the inputs. So how the MP neuron works? The output would be 1 if the aggregation is greater than or equal to some threshold. I call this threshold as b, small b. So the aggregation exceeds or equal to what? The threshold. If aggregation falls below the threshold, the output will be 0. So 1 is activation and 0 is deactivation. So when I say activated, that means what? The output becomes 1. So when that will happen? When the aggregation exceeds or equal to what? The threshold. Let us implement some of the basic Boolean functions, logical functions using MP neuron. So this is the MP neuron and V stands for the threshold. X1, X2, X3 are the inputs, the logical inputs, the Boolean inputs. Y again Boolean, it belongs to what? It can be either 0 or 1. So AND function, how the AND function will work? AND function, only when all the inputs are high, the output will be high. So what threshold I should choose? So our threshold is 3. So I am having 3 inputs, so threshold has to be 3. If I am having 2 inputs, the threshold has to be 2. So x1, x2, x3, 3 inputs, so threshold is what? 3. Okay. Then OR function threshold is 1, because if at least one of the input is 1, output will be 1. So I should go for the threshold as what? 1. Then x1 and not x2. Just you work it out. So x1 and x. So here x2, this bubble shows that this is an inhibitory input. x2 is what? Inhibitory. That means what? If x2 is 1, output will always be 0 irrespective of what? x1. Just you work it out. This will be what? x1 and not x2. Because 0, x1 is 0, x2 is 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 1. Out of this 4 combination, 0, 1 and 1, 1 is not allowed. Why? Because in that case, in that x2 is 1. If x2 is 1, output would be 0. Just you work it out. This will yield x1 and not x2. This one will be NOR function. Why? x1 is inhibitory, x2 is also inhibitory. So x1 and x2 both are not allowed to equal to 1. So which input combination is not allowed? 0, 0 is allowed. 0, 1 is not allowed because x2 is 1 there. 1, 0 is not allowed because x1 is 1 there. 1, 1 is also not allowed. So 0, 1, the inputs for the combination of 0, 1 input, 1, 0 and 1, 1, because we have inhibitory inputs, the output will always be 0. So 0, 1, 0, output is 0, 1, 0 for the input 1, 0, output will be 0, and for the input 1, 1, output is 0. For the input 0, 0, 0, 0, what's the threshold? The threshold is what? 0, so output will be what? 1. So 0, 0, 1, output is 1, and for all other input combination, output is 0. So this will be what? This is a NOR function. So this is a NOR function. NOT function, NOT is what? What's the threshold here? Threshold is 0. Threshold is 0, so if the input is 0, output is 1. If the input is 1, output is what? 0. Input is 1, output is 0. Why input is 1, output is 0? Because we have a inhibitory input. We have an input. So this is because the bubble implies what? It is inhibitory. So if this is 1, if the inhibitory input is 1, output will be 0. So this is what? This is a NOT function. So a simple MP neuron splits the input points into two outs. This is an OR function. The threshold is 1, x1, x2. Now we can plot the inputs. 0, 0 is one input, 1, 0 is 1, 0, 1, then 1, 1. The threshold is what? 1. So there is an OR gate. So it split the input points into two ORs. So 0, 0 is one set. 0, 0 will give you yield output as 0, and all other inputs 0, 1, 1, 0 and 1, 1 yield the output as what? 1. So this forms one group, and 0, 0 alone forms from another group. Okay, you can draw a line here. So draw a line here. Anything on this line or above this line will yield what? 1. Any input which is below this line yield the input as what? Yield the output as what? 0, 0. So MP neurons split the input points into two ORs. So we are able to find a line. So this is linearly separable. So AND function. So this is an AND function. Summation x n I x I greater than or equal to 0. 2. So 2. So we have two inputs. So the threshold is 2. Tautology is always on. So x1, x2, the threshold is 0, is always on. So for an AND function, so you will get 1, 1. So you will draw a line like this. x1 plus x2 is greater than or equal to 2. The output will be 1. For less than that, the output will be 0. For tautology, always on. So you can draw a line like this. So MP neuron works well with what? Linearly separable functions. So for three inputs, x1, x2, x3. So I want to get a line. Instead, I will get a plane. So instead of a line, we will have a plane. For the OR function, 3 input OR, the threshold is what? 1. If 3 input OR, threshold is 1. If it is an AND, means the threshold has to be what? 3. So how do I group? It will be divided into two groups. One group will have what? 0, 0, 0 alone in one group. Another group, we will have what? 7 points. 7 input points we will have. That is other than 0, 0, 0. Okay, so you can draw a plane here. So it divides into what? Two orbs. So one side will have what? 0, 0, 0. The other side remaining 7 points lie on the other side of the plane. So for 3 inputs we will have a plane. For 2 inputs we will have a line. So a single MP neuron can be used to represent Boolean functions which are linearly separable. Linearly separable for Boolean functions. There exists a line such that all the inputs which produce 1 lie on one side of the line. All the inputs which produce 0 lie on other side of the line. So 2 inputs means line. For 3 inputs we will have plane. And for more than 3 we will have hyperplane like that. What about non-Boolean? That is real inputs. What about not Boolean, real inputs? Do we always need to encode the threshold? Encode the threshold, or we can learn the threshold? Are all inputs equal? What if we want to assign more weights to some inputs? That is, weight means what? Importance. If you don't give weights, what will happen? So all the inputs are treated equally. So if you add weights, what will happen? Some inputs will be treated more important than the others. What about functions which are not linearly separable? We will discuss them. So the answer to those questions is perceptron. How the perceptron works? What difference we can find here is similar to MP neuron. The only difference is the weights. Only difference is the weight. So how this perceptron works? Y equal to 1 when the summation, weighted sum of the inputs Wi xi is greater than or equal to some threshold. If this condition is satisfied, the output will be 1, that is activated. If the weighted sum of the input, weight is the Wi multiplied by xi, I varies from 1 to how many inputs I am having, n inputs I am having. If less than the threshold, the output will be 0. I can rewrite these equations, rearrange it. You can bring theta to the left hand side. So what you will get greater than or equal to 0. You can manipulate this. Then I can put 1 here, x0 as 1, x0 as 1. I can do some manipulation. I can bring I equal to 0. So I equal to 0, Wi xi. So what is x0? X0 is 1. What is W0? W0 is minus theta. So this is called the bias. This is called the bias. Let us see what is bias mean. So only difference, the difference between the perceptron and the MP neuron is the weights. So this is the most accepted convention. Y equal to 1 when summation Wi xi is greater than or equal to 0. Instead of theta, I can have a 0. The difference is the summation includes what? I equal to 0 as well. We will now try to answer the following questions. So why are we trying to always implement Boolean expression? Can we go for real functions also? Why do we need weights, and what is the role of bias here? So what is this bias? It's actually a prejudice. Prejudice means what? It tells about the history. For example, if I am a movie buff, if I am I'm a movie lover, so what I will do? So irrespective of any genre, irrespective of any director, any actor, any producer, whoever it is, I will always go for a movie. So in that case, what's my bias? Bias is equal to 0. Assume that I am going for I am 3 parameters: this director, producer, and the actor. Okay. So selective. I am very, very selective. So for this director and this producer and for this actor alone, I will watch movie. Then in that case, what is your bias? Bias is equal to 3. Okay, this is how. So bias is a prejudice. Okay. So what kind of functions can be implemented using the perceptron? Any difference from the MP neuron? MP neuron. So on the top we have assume no innegatory inputs. Assume no innegatory inputs. We don't have any inputs. So summation xi greater than or equal to 0, 1. Summation xi greater than or equal to 0. Here summation wi xi greater than or equal to 0, 1. So only difference is the weights. Only difference. So from the equation is clear that even a perceptron separates the input space into 2 halves. MP neuron separates the input space into 2 halves. Even perceptron also does the same. All inputs which produce 1 will lie on one side, and all inputs which produce 0 will lie on the other side. In other words, a single perceptron can only be used to implement what? Linearly separable functions, just like MP neuron. Then what's the difference between MP neuron and the perceptron? The only difference is the threshold and can be learned, and the inputs can be real value. The inputs can be real values. There inputs were restricted to be only Boolean. Here the inputs can be real value. Then what is the weights? The weights, we can have weights, and the weights can be learned. The difference is the weights, and the weights can be learned as well. Inputs can be real values. We will revisit some Boolean functions and then see perceptron learning algorithms for learning weights. So let us see an oral OR. How do we implement a OR using a perceptron? Okay, 0 0. This is a truth table. 0 1 0 1 1. So W naught, you have the bias. W naught x naught is 1. So W naught plus I varies from 1 to 2. We have two inputs. So Wi xi is less than 0. Why I am like it? Because the output is 0. Here greater than or equal to 0, output is 1. So greater than or equal to 0, since the output is 1. Greater than or equal to 0, so since the output is 1. Okay. Now you substitute x1 and x2. Just expand this. What I will get? So I will get w naught as 0, less than 0. In the second, I will get w naught is greater than or equal to minus w naught. W1 is greater than or equal to minus w naught. W1 plus W2 is greater than or equal to minus W. So there are so many possible solutions are there. One possible solution for this set of inequalities is W0 is minus 1, W1 is 1.1, W2 to 1.1, and various other solutions are possible. So just use this and you can draw a line like this. Okay, you can draw a line like this. Now we can come up with this similar set of inequalities and find the value of theta for MP neuron also. So now this line separates the inputs into two halves. One, those which produce 1 will lie on one side and those which produce 0 will lie on the other. So now 0 0 alone produce 0, output 0. So this lies on this side, and 0 1 1 0 1 1 they lie on the other side. They produce 1. Now consider some points vectors which lie in the positive observes of this line. Now we can have x1 x2 is 2 vectors and w is 1. W is another vector. X1 is one input, x2 is another input, w is a vector. Now what is the angle between any such vector and w? Obviously less than 90 degree. Now we can take you can mark P1, P2, P3 3 points. What is the angle between w and P1, P2 or P3? Obviously it's less than 90 degree. Now we have a line. W2x equal to 0 is the line. Is the line which separates the it separates the inputs into two halves. W2x equal to 0. W2x equal to 0. So W2x is greater than or equal to 0 that is one condition. W2x is less than or equal to 0 is another condition. So W transpose x equal to 0 is the line which separates the inputs into two halves. So this is the line which separates the inputs into two halves. Now we have inputs P1, P2, P3, then N1, N2, N3. So what is the angle between this vector W and what? And N1, N2, N3 obviously is what? Greater than 90 degree. Okay. So what about points which lie in the negative of this slide? Negative of. That means these inputs produce what? 0. P1, P2, P3 produce inputs as what? So produce output as what? 1. N1, the inputs N1, N2, N3 produce output as 0. P1, P2, P3 produce output as 1 because W2x is greater than or equal to 0. For P1, P2, P3, W2x is greater than or equal to 0. And for N1, N2, N3, W2x is less than or equal to 0. So what is the angle between any such vector W? Obviously greater than 90 degree. For W2x is less than 0. For W2x is greater than 0, will less than 90 degree. So how do you find cos alpha? Cos alpha is W2x is simply the formula for dot product.